He saved all of that, she whispered, the color draining from her perfect porcelain face. Every lie, every cruelty, just to protect me. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to stay with me. It's important to know how far people will go when they think no one is watching. I'm just an old lady in my 70s, and it warms this old heart to know where my words travel. This story is my quiet lesson on karma, and if you're listening to me now, keep listening. Let me show you how Marcus, my son, ensured his final, quiet victory, and let me tell you how this all started, because sometimes, my dears, the best revenge is simply allowing a person to reveal exactly who they truly are. The call came just after 4 a.m. That hour of the wolf, when the world is held in a silent, icy grip. It wasn't a doctor's sterile voice, but my son's, Marcus. Strained, breathless. Mama, it's seizing up my chest. Can't breathe, then nothing. A static void where his voice had been. By the time my little sedan sputtered into the emergency bay, the lights were too bright, the air too cold. Marcus, my vibrant, healthy boy of 48, was already gone. A massive, sudden cardiac arrest. The doctor used words like swift and unavoidable, but they meant nothing. Marcus was gone. Serena, my daughter-in-law, stood beside me in the waiting room. Her face was a study in shock, but beneath the practiced grief, I saw a flicker, a quick, almost imperceptible straightening of her shoulders, like a weight had just been lifted. I blamed my own shattered eyes for the awful thought. Grief does strange things to the mind. What do we do now, dear? I managed to ask, my own voice sounding thin and distant. I had been living with them for 3 years, ever since I sold my own house and gave them a substantial sum, $55,000, to help secure their big, beautiful down payment. Marcus had insisted I stay temporarily until I found something smaller. Serena pulled away from my offered hand. The mask of sorrow tightened, then cracked just slightly to reveal a chilling impatience. Now we deal with reality, Alara. Marcus is gone, and I have decisions to make about my life. My life. Not our life, not our loss. I should have seen the lighthouse warning in that single word. But I told myself, people grieve differently. Some weep, others become numb and practical. Serena was always the latter, wasn't she? Focused on the ledger, the appearance. I tried to help with the funeral arrangements, but she waved me off with an imperious, white-gloved hand. I am his widow, Ilara. I know what Marcus would have wanted. So I sat in what had been Marcus's childhood room, my room now. I thought and wrote the eulogy, focusing on holding my shattered pieces together. Losing your child, even at my age, is a special kind of hell. The night before the funeral, I noticed the missing photos. Every frame on the dresser, every shelf, Serena and Marcus, Serena with her friends, Serena on vacation. The photos of Marcus and me from recent years vanished. I hadn't even noticed when they'd disappeared. A cold suspicion, sharp as a splinter, found a home in my heart. The funeral itself was a beautiful, perfectly orchestrated performance. Serena was the picture of the bereaved widow, accepting condolences with tragic grace. But at the reception, while accepting a hug from my sister, I overheard her speaking to her brother, Julian. Behind the floral arrangements. The life insurance covers the mortgage for years, Serena was murmuring, her voice low and excited. And without the extra drain? Julian glanced toward me nervously. What about Ilara? Where will she go? Serena's laugh was thin and high, like brittle glass shattering. That's not my concern. She can figure it out like the rest of us. She served her purpose. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Served her purpose. An hour later. As the last mourners were leaving, Serena led me into the kitchen, shutting the door with a chilling finality. I'm going to be direct, she stated, her voice calm and businesslike, the final shreds of grief having blown away. This house is solely in Marcus's name, making it mine now. I require time and space to process my grief without, well, complications. Complications? My heart hammered against my ribs, but my voice remained steady. Your presence here, Ilara, it's not sustainable. I need my privacy. I need you out. She held up a hand to stop my protest. I'll give you until tomorrow evening to pack. That's more than generous. I searched her face for the woman who had once called me Mom, who had hugged me on Christmas. She was gone, replaced by a hard-edged, calculating stranger. And where precisely do you expect me to go? She shrugged, a gesture of casual, profound cruelty. You're a grown woman. You'll figure something out. Marcus would have been horrified. Marcus is dead, she said, reading the thought in my eyes. The words were flat, conclusive, and the sooner you accept that, the better off we'll both be. 60 years of life reduced to 4 suitcases and 3 cardboard boxes. That's all that would fit in the trunk of my old sedan. I kept waiting for the apology, the rushed descent of Serena from upstairs, tears in her eyes, begging me to stay. She never came. At precisely 6 p.m. the next day, she stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, watching me zip the final suitcase. Time's up, Alara. We made the trips to the car in silence. As I loaded the last box, I turned, trying one final plea to what little humanity might remain. Serena, I know you're angry, but please tell me what I did wrong. I'll fix it. Her expression was entirely devoid of feeling. You did nothing wrong, Alara. You simply existed in my space, in my way. Marcus felt sorry for you. I don't. The honesty was a brutal clean cut. It was somehow better than the polite lie. I see, I whispered. I got into my car and rolled down the window. Will you at least tell me about the formal reading of Marcus's will? I assume he left me a keepsake. She looked genuinely puzzled. Why would he leave you anything? You're not his wife, and it's not like you ever contributed financially to our household. I felt a small, bitter smile touch my lips. The $55,000 I had given them for their down payment, my life savings, might disagree, but she had either forgotten or worse, convinced herself it was a worthless gift. Of course, I said, pulling the car into gear. Silly of me to assume. I drove toward the Hampton Inn on Route 1. It was the closest hotel I could afford while I figured out what figuring something out really meant for a widow. Childless and newly homeless in her 70s. I sat on the polyester bedspread, staring at my reflection. Who was this woman? A discarded relic. But as despair began to settle in, a tiny, hard kernel of something else began to stir. Not vengeance, but a quiet, cold sense of anticipation. Serena thought she had won. She didn't know the quiet, meticulous nature of my son. 2 weeks later, just as I was calculating how many more days my savings could cover the hotel bill, the call came. Mrs. Fairchild, the voice was calm, professional. Mr. Harding from Harding & Associates. I'm calling to inform you that the probate process is complete, and a formal reading of your son's will is scheduled for next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Your presence is required. Required. I sat up, the cheap springs protesting. I'm sorry, Mr. Harding, but I think there's a mistake. Serena seemed to believe, he interrupted gently. I can only tell you what the will specifies, Mrs. Fairchild, and it specifically names Alara Fairchild as a beneficiary. We'll see you next Tuesday. Marcus had left me something. A photo album? His father's fishing watch? Whatever it was, Serena would not be happy. When I arrived at the lawyer's office, Serena was already there, radiating expensive malice in a black designer dress, accompanied by her lawyer brother Julian. Julian, slick and self-important, was already tapping away on his phone. Serena pointed a manicured finger at the receptionist. What is she doing here? Mrs. Fairchild is here for the will reading, ma'am, the young woman replied. Unflustered, Julian nudged his sister, whispering furiously, and she settled into a chair across the room. Refusing to make eye contact, Mr. Harding, a silver-haired gentleman with kind eyes, ushered us into his office. Ladies, gentlemen, let us begin. Marcus was very specific. The first section was exactly as Serena had predicted. She inherited the house, the cars, the bulk of the retirement accounts, and the life insurance policy. She nodded smugly at each item, granting me a single, triumphant sideways glance. Julian, meanwhile, was scribbling notes, calculating their future wealth. Then, Mr. Harding's voice took on a sharper edge. There is, however, one final, separate provision that Marcus added just 4 months ago. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Serena stopped nodding. Julian dropped his pen. I felt my breath catch. Mr. Harding cleared his throat. To my mother, Alara Fairchild, who provided the original down payment for our home and who I know will need stability in the future. I leave the contents of Safety Box F9 at Continental Trust Bank, along with all associated documentation and account information contained therein. Safety Box? Serena's voice was a shocked squawk. Marcus never mentioned a safety box. Apparently, it was maintained privately, Mr. Harding said, looking up over his glasses. He was adamant that the contents should go solely to his mother. What's in it? Julian demanded, his lawyer instincts taking over. I have no idea. Marcus simply provided the bank information and clear instructions. Mrs. Fairchild should have full, exclusive access. Serena was turning an alarming shade of crimson. This is ridiculous. If there's anything of value, it belongs to the estate. We must contest this. You are free to try, Mr. Harding said mildly. But the provision is crystal clear. Marcus was completely competent when he added it on October 22nd. October 22nd. I remembered that date. It was the night Serena had thrown a spectacular fit because Marcus had suggested I join them for a quiet dinner out. He had seemed unusually distant the next morning. Before you leave, Serena, Mr. Harding continued, pulling out an envelope. Marcus left specific instructions that his mother must access the box within the next few days. This is his personal key and the bank documents. Serena's eyes fixed on the envelope in my hands, predatory and sharp. I'm coming with you. I have a right to know what my husband was hiding. I'm afraid that is impossible, Mr. Harding said, cutting her off. Bank policy. Access is restricted to Mrs. Elara Fairchild only. I stood, clutching the envelope, and filed out of the office, feeling the heat of Serena's furious gaze on my back. In the parking lot, she cornered me before I could reach my car. Elara, let's be reasonable. Whatever is in that box, we should share it. Marcus would have wanted his wife to benefit. I almost laughed out loud. You made it very clear you didn't think Marcus would leave me anything. Now you're concerned about sharing? I unlocked my car door. Marcus was very specific, Serena. The contents are mine. Her mask vanished, revealing the pure, toxic resentment beneath. Don't forget, Elara, you're living out of a suitcase in a chain hotel. You need my goodwill more than I need yours. I paused, my hand on the handle. Actually, Serena, I don't think I need anything from you at all. 3 business days later, after the paperwork was processed, I stood before a heavy steel door at the Continental Trust Bank. The manager, Ms. Wells, a woman with a no-nonsense bun and kind eyes, escorted me to the vault. Box F9 is one of our larger units, Ms. Wells explained. Mr. Fairchild rented it 5 years ago and visited quite regularly, sometimes just to sit in the viewing room for a while. 5 years. Marcus had been preparing for 5 years. Ms. Wells used her master key. I inserted Marcus's key, and the heavy metal box slid out. It was indeed large, the size of a leather briefcase, and surprisingly dense. Take all the time you need, Ms. Wells said, showing me to a small, private viewing room. I'll be right outside. Alone, in the quiet, windowless room, I lifted the lid. The first thing I saw was a thick, legal-sized ledger bound in dark green. Lying on top was a letter addressed to me in Marcus's familiar, steady handwriting. My hands shook so badly I had to rest the letter on my knee before I could read it. Mom, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. And if I am right, Serena has already shown you exactly who she really is. I'm sorry for the pain she has caused you, but frankly, I'm not surprised. I've known for years what kind of person I married, and I've been quietly preparing for this eventuality. You gave us $55,000 for our down payment. I know you considered it a loan, even though you'd never ask for repayment. That money never touched our household accounts. For the past 5 years, it has been the seed of an investment portfolio, carefully tended. What you see accompanying this letter is not just repayment. It is what careful, consistent investing has grown into. I put the letter down, gasping slightly. Underneath were bank statements, brokerage portfolios, and account transfer forms, all meticulously labeled. I scanned the figures on the main investment statement. The total was not the $55,000 I had loaned, but a staggering $210,488.15 across various high-yield accounts, all in my name and all ready to be transferred with the provided documents. I picked up the letter again, reading through blurred eyes. I also know Serena has spent years telling people, including you, that you contribute nothing to the household. What she doesn't mention is that our mortgage has been automatically deducted from my salary account for the entire time you have lived here. Every dollar you gave us went straight into the investment accounts for your future. The truth is, Mom, You saved us, and I was trying to save you. I've been documenting everything. Every insidious email, every nasty text message, every casual, cruel comment she has made about you, about me, and about our home. It's all in the green ledger, labeled documentation. I thought you should know exactly who has been sharing our house. I reached for the ledger. It was heavy, organized, and terrifyingly thorough. Inside were printed emails between Serena and Julian discussing how to minimize Alara's interference. Screenshots of texts where Serena called me the old barnacle and even financial. Summaries detailing her extravagant luxury spending, habits on the same months. She complained about household expenses. Marcus had compiled a devastating case. It was a silent monument to his love and his vigilance. The final paragraph broke me. You deserve so much better than the way she has treated you. Take this money, take this truth, and build yourself a life where no one can ever make you feel unwanted or worthless again. And Mom, please, do not tell Serena anything until you are safely away from her and all her associates. Trust me on this. All my love, Marcus. I sat there for nearly 2 hours. When I finally emerged, Ms. Wells helped me transfer the documents into a sturdy, locked box I purchased on the spot, explaining the process of transferring the funds. The new accounts would be fully liquid by the following morning. As I walked to my car, my phone rang. Serena. Alara. Her voice was sickly sweet. I was wondering if you'd care to come by for lunch today. I've made your favorite lemon chicken. We really should discuss what you found in that safety box. I smiled into the rearview mirror, a genuine cold smile. That's very generous, Serena. I'll be there at noon. It was time for my son's legacy to speak for itself. I arrived at the house, her house now, at exactly noon, carrying nothing but my purse and the profound quiet of my secret. Serena answered the door in a flowing ivory dress, radiating false hospitality. Alara, darling, I'm so glad you came. The dining table was set with their wedding china and fresh-cut lilies. It was a performance, and I was her captive audience. She poured iced tea and chattered about the neighbors while I waited, silently observing the woman who had stripped me of my home and dignity. So, she finally said, leaning forward with practiced grace, I've been thinking about the safety box. I know we've had our differences, but Marcus would have wanted us to support each other. Family must stick together. Family, I echoed, taking a small sip of tea. A profound sentiment coming from the woman who threw me onto the street the day after her husband's funeral. Serena flinched, but quickly recovered. You understand I needed space to grieve. Of course you do, which is why I was thinking, whatever Marcus left you, we should combine it with my insurance. I have wonderful financial advisors. I bet you do. The same ones who advised her on designer handbags. That's very thoughtful, I said calmly. But I'm curious, what makes you so certain there was anything valuable in the safety box? She paused, clearly thrown by the directness. Well, Marcus was private. He wouldn't keep something separate unless it was a significant asset. Private is an interesting word choice, I mused. Perhaps it was private because he didn't trust you. A dangerous flicker ignited in her eyes. What did you find, Alara? Stop being cryptic. I reached into my purse, but not for the ledger. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I had taken of Marcus's documentation. Documents, mostly, I said conversationally. Very illuminating reading material, financial records, and quite a few pieces of correspondence. I paused, letting the word hang in the air. Quite a few printed emails and text messages. The color visibly drained from her face. Marcus was very thorough in his record-keeping, especially toward the end. I turned the screen toward her. This one is from about 7 months ago to Julian. I can't wait until that old witch finally moves out. Then we can turn her room into the yoga studio I've been wanting. Serena lunged, but I smoothly pulled the phone back. There are dozens more, I continued, my voice steady, even pleasant. Texts to Julian, discussing how you had convinced Marcus that I should start contributing to the groceries when the mortgage was already budgeted for from his salary. Texts where you laughed about how gullible I was, and the email where you discussed with Julian how easy it was to make me feel like a burden, all while planning to evict me the moment Marcus was gone. Stop, she breathed, her hands grasping the edge of the table. He had every right to save those messages, I stated, setting the phone down. They were discussing his mother, in his house. The question is, Serena, what are we going to do about this situation? What do you want? The fake warmth was gone, replaced by raw calculation. Money? Do you want me to pay you off? How much? I don't want anything from you, Serena. I never did. I just wanted my son's love to be recognized. You can't prove any of this would hold up in court, she cried, desperate now. Court, I laughed, a dry, low sound. Oh, sweetie, I'm not taking you to court. Why would I? You've already given me everything I need. I pulled out the full green ledger from my large purse and placed it on the white linen tablecloth. Marcus left me more than text screenshots, Serena. He left me 5 years of evidence of manipulation. The bank statements here show that the house payments were automatically deducted from Marcus's salary account for the entire time I lived here. The credit card statements show your luxury purchases on the very same days you were telling Marcus we couldn't afford new window treatments. She stared at the ledger like it was a viper. You want to know the most interesting part? I leaned forward. This email thread between you and Julian discusses your long-term plan to have me declared fiscally incompetent so you could gain access to my small pension and Social Security. She flinched violently. That's not... We never actually... No, you never followed through, I finished for her, because Marcus figured out what you were planning and took steps to protect me. What steps? You don't have anything worth protecting. She shouted, the noise echoing in the elegant dining room. I smiled pleasantly. That's interesting. Because according to these investment statements, I apparently have quite a bit worth protecting. Money Marcus had been carefully growing for the past 5 years. That's impossible. You're living in... the Hampton Inn. I am living in the Hampton Inn because I chose to be there for a week while I secured my new bank accounts, not because I can't afford better. The silence is very good for sleeping, you know. I could see the frantic, ugly calculation in her eyes. How much? She finally hissed. How much money did Marcus leave you? I closed the ledger and stood up. That, Serena, is none of your business. You had a right to know what your husband left you. The house, the cars, the life insurance, and his retirement accounts. I'd say you made out very well. She shot to her feet, knocking her chair backward. You manipulative old relic, you're trying to steal what's rightfully mine. Steal? I raised an eyebrow. The money Marcus left me is not an inheritance. It's the return on the $55,000 I gave you for your house down payment, plus 5 years of careful investment. Did you truly believe I just handed over my life savings as a gift, with no expectation of repayment? Marcus said. He said it was a family contribution. Marcus, I said, leaning over the table one last time, my voice gentle but final, was trying to preserve both your pride and mine. But he never, ever forgot it was a loan. I pulled out my phone one last time, opened the Continental Trust banking app, and turned the screen toward her. The balance, $210,488.15, filled the glass. That's my new down payment fund, Serena. A little something to make up for my lost years of dignity. Enjoy the house, dear. Marcus left it to you, but he made sure you understood the cost of your greed. I walked out, leaving her standing amidst the ruins of her performance. The beautiful china and the wilting lilies serving as witnesses to her final, devastating defeat. The sun felt warm on my face. My son had not just protected me, he had ensured I was free. And that, my dears, is a lesson I'm happy to share.